Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. As many of you guys have probably heard, the Su-39, of which is an 11.3 BR premium in the Russian air tech tree, as well as its 11.3 BR regular tech tree counterpart, the Su-25T, have been introduced into War Thunder via the La Royale update. That's pretty much what this video will be all about. In fact, actually, I was going to be making this a full review of the Su-39, and I guess by extension the Su-25T. However, the big problem with that is that right now, at least in my opinion, they are more or less unplayable in Air RB. And you might be asking yourself, well, Tankenstein, what do you mean by that? Now, it's not that you can't get kills with them, it's not that you can't, do decently well with them, but for their intended role, they are unusable. And again, that's what this video will be about. In a way, it will be kind of like a partial review, but I do plan on releasing a full review on this video once its BR decreases a sufficient amount. And when I say a sufficient amount, I mean once you don't have to fight things like MiG-29s, F-16s, and some of the other high BR terrors that this thing has to see regularly. So if you guys don't know, I'll give you some lay of the land here. The Su-39 and by extension the Su-25T are both subsonic attack aircraft, kind of in the same vein as the A-10, but they are 11.3 BR. Now, if you could imagine a faster A-10, I mean by faster, not a ton faster, A-10 at 11.3 BR, that's kind of what this thing is. So it only has access to two R-60M missiles, which are really getting long in the tooth, in my opinion, at give or take around 10.3, probably even more so 10.7 BR, which is where more and more aircraft start getting countermeasures. You start getting smarter opponents who are actually used to using countermeasures and watching out for missiles. And that's one of the big problems, is that those R-60s just take off like a rocket, so to speak. They take off like a missile when they see countermeasures, and of course at that point they will not hit the enemy plane. So they are not very good missiles, and you only get two of them. Plus, you actually have in the Su-39 and 25T 50 fewer rounds of 30mm cannon ammo with its main gun, as opposed to the Su-25 and 25K, which are both at current 10.0 BR. So they actually get fewer rounds of cannon ammo, which the cannon, if you guys play the Su-25 at all, or at this point the 39, the cannon is a huge part of your air-to-air game and will get a good amount of kills. So by having 1/5 fewer rounds, that is a big hit. And again, this video will be mainly critiquing the air RB situation that these vehicles are in. Again, the 39, the 25T, but I will also kind of touch on the ground RB portion as well. Now, to kind of give you guys an idea here, the MiG-23 ML is the same exact BR and rank currently, again, as I record this, as the Su-39 and the 25T. Now, the MiG-23 ML has access to not only radar, but of course radar guided missiles, longer range missiles, and up to 6 shorter range IR missiles. So you can have up to 6 R-60Ms, which will more or less give you some kills pretty much in every match, whereas the Su-25, that not only cannot compete with other aircraft in terms of maneuverability, in terms of speed, will only get 2 of them. So you only get 2 R-60Ms with the Su-39 and Su-25T, as opposed to 6 of them with the ML. Plus the ML gets R-24s, so you have the R and the T variants, which are very good at their BR and very capable missiles that are both radar and IR guided, depending on which one you choose. But I could go on and make those comparisons all day. There are tons of vehicles that sit at 11.3 BR, 11.0 BR, 10.7, even 10.3 BR that are going to be better at Air RB, that I would feel better playing in Air RB at 11.3 BR than I would the Su-39. And because of that, this vehicle is thoroughly one of the best poster childs in War Thunder for having split BRs between ground battles and air battles. And one of the big problems that we've experienced from Gaijin themselves is a few months ago, they specifically said that their intention is to never have different BRs for ground and air battles for aircraft. So basically, it doesn't matter how poorly your vehicle performs in, let's say, for example, ground battles versus air battles, you will not have a different BR, just as if you have a very good ground attack aircraft, but a terrible air aircraft, I guess you could say, an Air RB or an Air AB aircraft, you will not have a reduced BR for Air AB or RB, and an increased BR, again, for ground battles. And that leads us to the point here. Now, the Su-39 and the 25T, clearly the BR that they were given at launch, again, 11.3 BR, which is a full 1.3 BRs higher than the Su-25 and the 25K, and 1.6 BRs higher than what they were at launch. The 11.3 BR for, again, the 39 is totally based on its ground attack capabilities. And just bear in mind that the only things that the 39 and the 25T have over the 25K and the standard 25 are up to 16 Vakir missiles, which I'm not going to lie, those are very, very effective ATGMs. But the 39 and the 25T also have access to laser guided rockets, which I really don't think many people are going to use those, and also up to 2 500 kilogram TV guided bombs. That's pretty much it. Now, you also have, in terms of defense and also propulsion, the Su-39 and 25T do have slightly upgraded engines. So I believe that they have something like 10% more thrust, but the planes also, if I'm not mistaken, do weigh a bit more. So while you do still get a better power to weight ratio, it's not an incredible amount more, and you should still be more or less flying at around the same speeds. Additionally, and this is also another point that might have some relevance, is that the 39 and the 25T have an IRCM in the tail, which basically means that it should be more difficult, at least from behind the aircraft, to lock on via guided missile, like an IR guided missile. So bear that in mind, and I'm not saying bring this down to the Su-25 and the 25K BR, but again, with the better engines, slightly better engines rather, and also the IRCM, I see no reason why the 39 and the 25T should be at the BR that they are, and I really feel like at very most, they should be at 10.7 BR in air RB. Now, when it comes to ground RB, that's a totally separate story. You can maybe keep them at 11.3 BR, I'm not entirely sure, but one of the biggest problems with this aircraft, with any of these aircraft that are like this, again, like the Su-39 and the 25T, but also like the A7s, for example, really good ground attack aircraft, but not very good in air. You never see them in air, and for that same reason, I never see the Su-39. In fact, in every single match I've played with the Su-39 thus far, probably been around a dozen matches, I have been the only Su-39 in game. This is only a week or so after the release of the update that contained this vehicle, which is absurd. I've never seen that ever in War Thunder, where I've been the only person playing a brand new premium aircraft at top tier in every single match I've played, which is, it's just absurd, and people will actually make fun of you for playing it because of how much it sucks in air RB. And one other real quick point I do want to make is that when it comes to the Su-25K and the standard Su-25, you can bring into battle a bunch of bombs, whatever you'd like in air RB, and you should be able to hit bases. It is totally useless to do that in the Su-39 and also the Su-25T, simply because you will get shot out of the sky because your performance is worse than it otherwise would be, which is already bad without the bombs. Even 10.7 BR might be a touch too high for it, but even like, let's say if it got down to 10.3 BR, which honestly I wouldn't be too surprised because in air RB at least, it is not too much better at all compared to the 25 and the 25K. So it's just absolutely absurd that we have this vehicle that its air RB BR is being totally dependent, or determined rather, from its ground RB BR. And this is the poster child for it. Again, I've used this a little bit in ground RB, I've tested it out, I've used it in test drive mode as well, and I think its ground RB BR is not bad, right? 11.3 BR, but it is absurd that the main way that you are going to use this aircraft, that you are going to grind the tech tree, get silver lines, or whatever you want to do, which is air RB, its BR is being determined solely based on its ground RB performance, which is absurd. Totally crazy, and it needs to change. This should be the exception to the rule that Gaijin has, where there are no split BRs between, again, ground and air battles. This needs to be the exception. Hopefully also the A7s as well, but this one more so. It is absurd. So again, like I said, this is a partial review. If you are going to be using this vehicle at all, again, for air battles, I would not recommend you purchase it. It would not be a wise idea until they bring bring the BR for this aircraft down substantially. Again, at least in air battles, if they do decide to make a split BR between ground and air. This vehicle is just not at all suitable for facing the enemies that it currently faces, and you will die more often than not. You may as well be flying a prop plane versus these higher BR aircraft. It is that absurd at this point. Again, just as a final kind of rundown here, the Su-39 and Su-25T have no appreciable differences in air-to-air combat capabilities over the 1.3 BR lower Su-25 and 25Ks. In fact, arguably they could be worse because they have fewer 30mm rounds as opposed to the earlier variants that have 250 as opposed to the later variants 200. So again, if you're going to be playing this in air battles, I do not recommend it one bit. This is a total avoid. Only purchase this if you guys want once the BR situation becomes clarified and we have a much lower BR. Now, if you're only exclusively going to use this for ground, it might not be bad, but heck, I would just use a KA-50 until, I would personally rather just use a KA-50 instead of the Su-25T and also the Su-39. So that said, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Again, partial review. You can't expect a full review once this BR gets changed, which I fully expect it to get changed. Whether or not they do a split BR like I'm hoping, or they just kind of lower it to 11.0 BR and that's it, we'll have to wait and see. But again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone, and avoid this plane like the plague.